I know you're not used to seeing this wild mess of books behind me because I feel like I'm normally pretty organized, but I am really excited to show you guys all of my unread books on my TBR. There are a total of 62, but I have a haul coming soon of more books. I bought like over 30 books and they will be here soon, so yeah, we're gonna be opening those soon. I also went to the bookstore yesterday and I bought some new books. I bought like 4 of them, and if you guys want to see them before I share in the haul coming up, you guys can check out my vlog from a couple days ago. And if you guys ever want to see more book related content, make sure that you're subscribed because I upload videos on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. And let's get into these 62 different books. I'm really excited to show you guys. So every single book that I'm going to show you for the most part is either self-help, romance, or thrillers. That's pretty much all that I read. I don't really read self-help as much anymore. There are going to be a couple classics like thrown in there, but for the most part it'll be like thrillers and romance. And the first book that I have to show you guys is this book called Mean Streak. This is about a pediatrician named Emery, and she gets kidnapped, or she's reported missing in the mountains, and her husband, I guess, just like got into an argument with her and didn't like report her missing. And by the time that like he reports her missing, like the trail where she had went off, because they were on a mountain road, it goes like cold. They literally can't find her. So this is an interesting book, at least from what it looks like on the back, because it looks like the husband could somewhat be involved, because it says, as her husband's deception is revealed, the FBI closes in on her captor, and Emery begins to wonder if the man with no name, who's the person that is holding her captive, is in fact her rescuer from those who wish her dead and from heartbreak. So this is interesting. I've never read anything from Sandra Brown, but she is a New York Times bestselling author, so I'm excited to read this one. I love the cover of this one, and it's called I Want to Be Where You Are by Christina Forrest. And this book is pretty much about a girl who wants to be a dancer, and she just has these such high aspirations for herself. And her mom is pretty much like, no, like you can't be a dancer, no dance school, like you need to go dance. And Chloe, she like absolutely refuses. And so she decides to go to an audition that's 200 miles away. And I guess her neighbor decides that he also wants to come, and she's like, oh, like that's so annoying. But then like, I don't know, a romance definitely ensues, and at least it says it's filled with romance, hijinks, and more than a few broken rules. I Want to Be Where You Are is a testament to being brave and going the distance for what you want. So I'm really excited to read this one. I've actually had this on my TBR for a long time, so I definitely need to get into it. I've literally got to speed this up, otherwise I'm never gonna get through all of these books, or we're gonna be sitting here forever. So I'm gonna just chat a little bit faster, but this is called All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover. I've never read it, but it's about a marriage, and pretty much the marriage has like a lot of issues, and I feel like it's hard to find books about marriage, especially these days. Like I feel like most books are just about like relationships. So yeah, this is the first book, I think, of hers that's about marriage. So yeah, they have like a lot of stuff that they're going through. They have like a really big thing that they're struggling through. There's a lot of like emotional depth, it says, in it. So yeah, excited to read it. This is called Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell, and my niece actually read this book and said it was so good, so I'm really excited to read it. This is about Ellie Mack, and she was the perfect daughter, and then she was gone. And 10 years later, her mom is like in a cafe, and of course still distraught over her daughter being gone, but she's like trying to pick up pieces of her life. And in the cafe, she meets a girl who is like the spitting image of Ellie. And so now she's like asking herself again, like, where did Ellie go? Did she run away? Was she kidnapped? Did something more sinister happen? Like, she literally doesn't know. So I am gonna take a hunch that maybe the girl in the cafe is her daughter and like something else happened, but I literally don't know. This looks like a good thriller. This is called This Side of Home, and it's by Renee Watson, and it's pretty much about 2 identical twins, Maya and Nikki, and their neighborhood is being gentrified, and one of the girls is really excited because like there's gonna be a new Starbucks that's coming in, and like a gym and all these cool things, and the other sister, she's like sad that a part of her community is gonna be gone. So you gotta kind of get to see the 2 like parallel viewpoints of, or is that the word, parallel? You get to see 2 opposite viewpoints into something that happens very often in like lower income communities. So this is a really good one. I feel like this one might even be a good one for like class or something. This is called The End of Her by Cherie Lapina, and Cherie Lapina actually wrote The Couple Next Door. I read that book, and I've read so many other books by the same author. This book is about Stephanie and Patrick, and they just had 2 kids. They're kind of colicky, they're like babies, and they're just kind of adjusting to life, and they're having like a literally seemingly perfect marriage. And then Erica, who's a woman from Patrick's past, comes up and makes an accusation and pretty much says that Patrick's like previous wife before him and Stephanie got married was murdered. And I guess Patrick always said that his first wife's death was an accident. So then Erica, she starts to like second guess things, and she starts to look into things, and it just looks like such a good thriller. I really wanted to make sure that I added in some like self-help things for myself this year, and I got Think, Act, Believe Like Jesus, and it says Becoming a New Person in Christ. It's by Randy Frazee. And I just thought that this would be a really good, like kind of, not workbook, but there's like a lot of questions, like does my schedule reflect how God wants me to use my time? There's like tons of questions for you to ask yourself and evaluate your relationship with Christ, and there's also like tons of verses and stuff in here. It's kind of like a devotional-ish, like more of a book than a devotional, but there's definitely questions for you to ask yourself, and I thought it would be good. But they do have places to like write things in it. So yeah, excited to read this one. This book is called With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo? I'm not sure, but it's the writer of The Poet X, which I actually may have purchased in my new book haul that's coming up. But that book was a National Book Award winner, and this book has been pretty popular too. And it's about Imani, who she got pregnant and pretty much had always had dreams of being like a chef, but she kind of felt like that wasn't possible after she like became a mom. But then she just gets in the kitchen and just falls in love with cooking every time she does. And so this book is about like following your dreams and finding and picking up a passion and like sticking with it. And yeah, that's what this one's about. These 2 authors wrote The Golden Couple, and that is one of my favorite thrillers, and I'm really excited to read this. And I have to read the back because it's such a unique like back of a book, and it's really hard to explain. And it says, when you read this book, you will make many assumptions. You'll assume you're reading about a jealous ex-wife. You will assume she's obsessed with her replacement, a beautiful younger woman who's about to marry the man that they both love. You will assume you know the anatomy of this tangled love triangle. Assume nothing. Twisted and deliciously chilling, the wife between us, defiantly, I don't know if that's a word, but explores the hidden complexities of marriage and the dangerous truths we ignore in the name of love. Read between the lies. And it's by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen, which is a great duo because they wrote The Golden Couple, and I love that book. This book's called Without Merit, and it's about someone, I'm assuming a girl named Merritt, and it says she collects trophies she hasn't earned and secrets her family forces her to keep. And when browsing the local antique shop for another trophy, she meets Sagan. He's witty, idealistic, and sparks renewed life into her, until she learns that he's completely unavailable. Merritt retreats deeper into herself, watching her family from the sidelines when she learns a secret that no trophy in the world can fix. And it's by Colleen Hoover. I have heard that this is one of her like not like amazing books, but not like the worst, like somewhere in the middle. So I'm excited to like see what middle is. But I have found that every Colleen Hoover book that I've read always gets me out of a rut. So I usually like save Colleen Hoover's books for if I'm feeling like in a rut, and then I'll just read it because it's like happy, light, and it's just like always a fun book. This book is an older one. I think it was written in like 2013, and I know that it's kind of an older one because they talk about like Facebook in it, but I saw it in a bookstore and I just had to like buy it because it looked really good. It's pretty much about 2 different characters who are very different in high school. Omar, he's kind of like, you know, guy's guy, like popular, that kind of thing. And then Claudia, she's like Harvard bound straight A student, and they're thrown together when they unexpectedly lead the biggest social protest this side of the Mississippi. With a little flirting turns to real love, the revolt is on, and the scene at West Charleston gets real fast. And it's by Kwame Alexander. I've never heard of this author, literally never heard any reviews about it, but I told myself this year that I wanted to read more books that like no one has recommended, that I literally just saw in a bookstore and was gravitated towards. And this one really drew me in. They also have like text messages and stuff in here, and lots of little like email message things. And I just thought it would be a really fun book to read. This book is by Chandler Baker, and it's called The Whisper Network. It's one of the Brees Book Club recs, which I thought was really cool. I always love her recs. This book is about Sloane, and she's worked with her best friends Artie and Grace for years, and they support one another at work, and they, you know, enjoy their workplace. But then they find out that their boss, Amez, he's suddenly in line to become CEO of the company, and pretty much everyone finds out that he has had terrible experiences with so many women at the in the workplace. So they all decide to take him down, and pretty much lies are uncovered, secrets are exposed, and it just looks like it's supposed to be really good. And yeah, that's the gist of this one. This is actually a show, I think that's on Hulu, and it's called The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. This took TikTok by storm last year, but I'm a little late to the game with this one because it just didn't really look that interesting to me. I'm not a huge enemies to lovers person, but I've heard from a lot of people that it is really good, so I'm gonna read it. It's about Lucy and Joshua, and they hate each other, and they're both up for the same promotion, so they pretty much are just trying to like do all these like different things to take each other down, and then there's like tension, and I think it's gonna be a good romance, but I just don't know how good it is. I think this is gonna be the next book that I read though, so let me know if you guys have read it and if you guys think it's any good. I have heard that this book is one that people literally cry over, and it's called Excuse Me Why I Ugly Cry, so go figure. It's by Joya Goffney, and this is about Quinn, and she keeps lists of everything, and she makes a list. It says, Quinn keeps lists of everything from the days she's ugly cried to things that I would never admit out loud, and all the boys she'd like to kiss, and her lists keep her sane. But writing her fears on paper, she's never had to face them in real life because she's writing them on paper. And then her journal goes missing, and an anonymous account posts one of her lists on Instagram for the whole school to see and blackmails her into facing 7 of her greatest fears. And Quinn doesn't know who to trust. Desperate, she teams up with Carter Bennett, the last known person to have her journal, in a race against time to track down the blackmailer. And I've just heard that like Carter, I think it's Carter, he's like the best book boyfriend. Like it just is such a beautiful love story. And I'm really excited to read this one. This I would probably read next, but I just told myself I was gonna read The Hating Game first. If you guys think I should read this next, let me know, because I might bump it up in my TBR to like the very next thing that I read, because I've just heard so many good things about it, and I feel like that's maybe why I'm savoring it a little bit, but I don't know, let me know what you guys think. This is called If He Had Been With Me by Laura Nolan, and I have heard that this like book breaks people apart, like literally rips their heart out of their chest, and they like cry so much. So I might actually do like a week reading sad books or something and like let you guys know what I think. And this would definitely be one of them. Whew. Sorry, I'm getting tired. There's so many more books to go, so I gotta get it together. But it's about Autumn and Finn, and they used to be inseparable, but then something changed between them. And Autumn, she has her boyfriend Jamie and her close-knit group of friends, and Finn has become like that guy at school that everyone wants to be around, but it doesn't stop the way that Autumn and Finn feel about each other whenever they cross paths, just because they are like not communicating. So it says, as time passes, Autumn realizes she might not get another chance to make things right before it's too late. So I don't really know what happens. It's a very vague, like back of a book, but I've heard again that this literally rips people's heart out of their chest. So I'm excited to read it. This is called Chasing the Brightside, and it's by the founder of Headbands of Hope, Jess Estrom. And I mean, that's all you really need to know. She writes about her perspective of creating Headbands of Hope, and I like to read stories from founders because they feel like they're really inspiring, and I thought that this would be a good read. This is called Black Joy by Tracy Lewis Giggets. And I thought it would be a good one because it's a collection of short stories all about Black joy, and they're just like little essays, and I feel like whenever I need to pick me up, I will probably just like pick this up. I don't know if I'll read it like all the way through just in like one sitting, but I could see myself just like reading just like a little bit here and there, because like literally this essay is 2 pages. And I like books like that, just kind of like mix things up when I'm like reading a longer book. This is called Untying the Knot, and it pretty much talks about the love story of, I think her name is Quinn, I think, and Riot. And maybe her name's not Quinn, I don't know. I know his name is Riot, and pretty much they like fall in love and they have a beautiful love story, and then 11 years later and their relationship is like totally different, and she's just like, I can't do this anymore, and she serves him divorce papers, and he is pretty much like, I am gonna fight for this. And so this whole book, or at least the last part of it, is all about him trying to like win her heart back, I guess. And I just thought that that would be an interesting take, so I'm excited to read it. Okay, this book I actually bought a long time ago. I got it for like $5, but it just looked like it was good, and it's like a short read. It is called Cracked Up to Be, and it is by, I can't really read the front because it's covered by the sticker that we absolutely have to take off, just because I hate when stickers are on books. But it says, when perfect Parker Fadley starts drinking at school and failing her classes, all of St. Peter's High goes on alert. How is a cheerleading captain, girlfriend of the most popular guy in school, and consummate teacher's pet, and future valedictorian fallen so far from grace? And it says she doesn't want to talk about it, and there's something that happened, and it said nobody would have guessed she'd turn out like this, but nobody knows the truth. And it says that this is by Courtney Summers, and literally can't get a sticker off, just ripped it, so I'll have to like scrub that to get it off or something later. But I thought this would be a good one, a nice little short read. This is called The Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes. I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory, but Shonda Rhimes is the producer of Grey's Anatomy, Private Practice, Scandal, How to Get Away with Murder, and The Catch. And she pretty much just talks about how switching your perspective from constantly saying no to constantly saying yes can totally change your life. And I feel like that is a very life-changing, incredible like thought, and a great one to have going into the new year. And it's also a New York Times bestseller too. This is called Maybe Sunday by Colleen Hoover, and I'm gonna start talking faster again because I feel like I'm taking so long. But it's about Sydney, and she has a great life, but she's captivated by Ridge, and she can't take her eyes off of him, and she can't stop listening to him play his guitar every evening out on the balcony, and they can't ignore each other. But Ridge is in a relationship, I think. And Sydney had just been cheated on by her boyfriend Hunter, and she's forced to decide what her next move will be. So it's very interesting like book, but I feel like this would be a book where I'm gonna either love the characters or hate them. This is called The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle, and it says Burnout on the front by Emily Nagoski and Amelia Nagoski, and they both, I think, have their PhD. One of them has their DMA, and it pretty much is all about how to break the stress cycle and stop being like stressed, or how to find things that trigger you when you are stressed, and like what stress does to your life and how it affects you. So yeah, pretty self-explanatory. This next book is one everyone talks about, and it says it's about a third-year PhD candidate named Olive. And Adam is, I think, he's a hot professor, supposedly, and he's also a jerk to everyone except for Olive. And when a big science conference goes haywire, putting Olive's career on the Bunsen burner, Adam surprises her again with his unyielding support and even more unyielding six-pack abs. I've heard that this is really good. She also came out with a book of her own that is kind of similar to this, because I guess she comes out with a lot of books about women in tech, so I thought that was really neat. This book is about Chloe, who's chronically ill, and she writes this list of like things she wants to do in her life, and just like to better her life. One of them is enjoy a drunken night out, ride a motorcycle, go camping, have meaningless but thoroughly enjoyable sex, travel the world with nothing but hand luggage, and do something bad. And Redford, everyone calls him Brett, I guess, Morgan, he's a handyman with tattoos, a motorcycle, and pretty much she like tells Red, like, you need to help me to like do all these things. And she learns things about him that no spy session could teach her, like why he clearly resents Chloe's wealthy background, and why he never shows his art to anyone, and what really lies beneath his rough exterior. I've heard so many good things about this series, and this is called Restore Me by J.L. Seegers. And it's about Dominique, who pretty much hates her late husband's best friend because she thinks he's like arrogant, dismissive, and like all these things. But then one drunken night, they pretty much like connect, and he starts being nice, and then they start like falling for each other. And yeah, I've just heard it's an incredible series, so I'm really excited to read this one. I definitely want this to be at the top of my TBR too. This is one of the top 100 romance novels of all time on Goodreads, so I had to pick it up, and it's called Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. And it's about what's the main character's name? Archer, funny. The main character meets Archer, and pretty much she seems to be running away from something, but then she meets Archer, and her entire world is like flipped upside down, and it seems like he also has a lot of secrets, but then they like fall into this like deep connection. what more could you want? This is called All About Love by Bell Hooks, and it's more of a like self-help type book, and she pretty much examines love and like the way that we view love in society. And I've seen this book talked about all over TikTok, and all over Black TikTok. People are like, oh my God, this will like totally change your view on yourself and like people around you and everything. So I had to pick it up. This is called The Opposite of Always by Justin Reynolds, and it's a love story, but it's also complicated. It's about Jack and Katie, and they meet at a party. Their life seems perfect. They fall in love, they bond, they stay up till the sunrise, and it's just like this beautiful love story. And then literally it says this in the inside, like, don't worry, I'm not spoiling anything. Katie dies, and it says the story should end there, yet Katie's death sends Jack back to the beginning, the moment they first met, and Katie's there again. Beautiful, radiant Katie, healthy, happy, and charming as ever. Jack isn't sure if he's losing his mind. Still, if he has a chance to prevent Katie's death, he'll take it, even if that means believing in time travel. I mean, I feel like I'll cry on this one. This is called Jocelyn Hazel's Guide to Not Dating, and I've read 2 books by this author, and I love both of them, so I had to pick this one up. And it's about Hazel and Josh, who they've known each other since college, and they've been friends for like 10 years, and they're both single, and they pretty much hook each other up with all these like random blind dates, and the blind dates go terribly, so I assume they're gonna fall in love, which is my favorite. They love Friends to Lovers, and Christina Lauren just does Friends to Lovers like so good every time, so I'm gonna have to add this into like the higher up section of my TBR. This book, I really am not sure what it's about, but it's called Layla by Colleen Hoover. You guys know I love Colleen Hoover, and it's supposed to be kind of like a thriller type book. And she's only written like one thriller type book, which is Verity. And I've heard that Layla is one that's like kind of similar, but not. And I just have to read everything of hers. So it's on my TBR. This is actually a movie, and the same author has a movie called Everything Everything and a book called Everything Everything. So 2 of her books have been turned into movies, and the movies were really good. So I definitely wanted to read the book, and it's about Natasha and Daniel, and Natasha's parents are about to be deported back to Jamaica, and she meets Daniel, and they seem to be like so like perfect and connected, but she like believes in like science and data, and she's like, pretty much this isn't gonna work if I'm going back to Jamaica. And Daniel, he is like a dreamer, and he pretty much is just like, we're gonna make this like work, and I'm gonna convince her that like this can be like a thing, and that's what the whole book is about for the most part. I've heard this thriller is incredible, so it's another one that is definitely gonna be higher up on my TBR. It's called Every Last Secret by A.R. Torr, and it's by a New York Times best-selling author, and it's about Nina Ryder, who she gets fixated on her neighbor, or her neighbor's husband, and Kat Winthrop is the one who's the neighbor. She's gorgeous, she's a great social standing, her husband's really successful, and Nina gets like fixated on William and is like, I want him. So it's just giving me like obsessed vibes, and I need that in my life. This is another Reese book club rec, and it's called The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave, and I will link all the books below so you guys can pick them up if you want to. But this one is one that everyone is raved about, like literally everyone, and I just have to read it. And it's about Owen Michaels, and he disappears, but before he disappears, he gives a note to his wife, and the note says protect her, and he's meeting his daughter, which is his wife's stepdaughter, and the stepdaughter's name is Bailey, who she lost her mother tragically as a child. And pretty much the mom starts like digging into Owen's past and finds out that his past is like so much different than like she thought. And it says Hannah and Bailey set out to discover the truth. And as they start putting together the pieces of Owen's past, they soon realize they're also building a new future, one neither of them could have anticipated. This is called Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany Jackson, and it says, this is the story of how my best friend disappeared, how nobody noticed she was gone except me, and how nobody cared until they found her 1 year later. I mean, that explains enough in itself. Literally made me want to read it after those few sentences. I just love like a good thriller, like friendship type book. I remember starting this book forever ago, but I don't remember finishing it. But I never start books and don't finish it. So I feel like maybe I did, but I don't really remember. So I definitely want to read this. I don't think that I finished it. I think I started it and literally just didn't, or forgot about it. But it's about, it's called The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas, and it was actually made into a movie, and it's about 16-year-old Star, and her like best friend Khalil was murdered, and pretty much she becomes like a national headline. And it talks all about like what this does to Star's community and how they all band together, and I just thought that this would be a really good one. This called Maya Angelou, The Complete Poetry. It's just a collection of poems. I found this in a little bookstore, and I just thought that I would read through this because I really want to get back into poetry. I used to like love reading poetry and I kind of fell out of it. So this year I'm planning on getting back into it because I just think that reading poetry is such a beautiful form of art. This next book is called The Anatomy of Peace, and it's all about conflict resolution. And I just feel like there aren't enough books on conflict resolution, whether it's in the workplace or when you call a business. And I actually used to do like behavioral training for neurodivergent people and like families and stuff, and I just thought that this would be really interesting because I used to do like a lot of behavioral training and stuff. So yeah, it's all about what if conflicts at home, conflicts at work, and conflicts in the world system stem from the same root cause? What if we systematically misunderstood that cause, and what if as a result we systematically perpetuate the very problems we think we are trying to solve every single day? These 3 books actually are from school, and I genuinely don't know if I'm ever gonna get to them. Like, I genuinely don't. This is called The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls. This is it's a memoir about resilience and redemption and the revolutionary look into a family at a once deeply dysfunctional and uniquely vibrant family turns into something that's like, you know, not so good. And when sober, Jeanette's brilliant, charismatic father captured his children's imagination, teaching them physics, geology, and how to embrace life fearlessly. But then when he drank, he was dishonest and destructive, and it pretty much talks about that type of family dynamic. This book is called Peeling the Onion by Gunter Grass, and this is about the author and his life. And this actually was a Nobel Prize winning book, or author, I think. It's a memoir, and it's about his early life from his boyhood and being cramped in a 2-room apartment during the 1950s, and it talks about the Second World War. And then this last one is The Witness of Combines, and it says when this is by Kent Myers. It says when Kent Myers' father died of a stroke, there was corn to plant, cattle to feed, and a farm to maintain. In a fresh and vibrant voice, Myers recounts the wake of his father's deaths and reflects on the family's farms and rural life in the Midwest. This book is called Losing Hope by Colleen Hoover, and Colleen Hoover wrote Hopeless years ago, and I read it in like, I think 2013. It was one of my first Colleen Hoover books, and I fell in love. Literally immediately had to buy Ugly Love right after, or like shortly after, and I had one of my friends read it. Such a good book. And Losing Hope is from the guy's perspective, and so Hopeless is Sky's story, and then Losing Hope is Dean Holder's story. And it says, haunted by the little girl he couldn't save from imminent danger, Holder's life has been overshadowed by feelings of guilt and remorse. He's never stopped searching for her, believing that finding her would bring him the peace he needs to move on. This is called Preparing for Marriage by David Boa, Brent Nelson, and Jeff Scholl and Lloyd Shadrick. And it says, discover God's plan for a lifetime of love. I genuinely don't know if I'm gonna read this. We got it as a gift when we were engaged, and we were just so busy during like our wedding planning that we never got to it, and we've been married for like 4.5 years, so maybe we'll get to it eventually, but I just don't know. But it does have like a lot of cool things that you can like write in, and lots of good deep questions, so maybe we'll just like ask each other some of the questions that are in here. But we did do like marriage counseling and stuff before we got married, but I just thought this would be a good resource to share with one of you guys if you're about to get married too. I've wanted to read Hidden Figures for a while, and it's by Margot Lee Shetterly, and it says it's about Black women who were mathematicians, and they helped to win the space race. I like to incorporate things that are like inspiring into my reading, and it does take me a little bit longer to get through, but I think it's still important. So I want to add this in and hopefully read this year. So this book is a Nicholas Sparks book, and it's called The Rescue, and I got this, I think, at, I don't know, a bookstore like a couple years ago, and I loved the book, A Walk to Remember, and I really liked the movie The Notebook, so I thought that this would be good. But it's about Taylor, who's a volunteer fireman who he pretty much just like can't fall in love. He's like had a lot of things in his past, and he just always has sought out women who need to be rescued, and then they leave whenever the crisis is over, and then he meets Denise Holton, and it seems like they have like something special. This book is called Influencer by Brittany Hennessy, and it's pretty much the blueprint to manage and monetize as an influencer or a content creator. And I bought this years ago so I could really, like, I don't know, learn more, and I never read it, but I just thought that it would be cool information. So if you're someone who's like wanting to get into content creation, I feel like this would be a good book to read, because Brittany Hennessy is like a very well-known person in the space and has a lot of good insight. This book is by the author of Beach Read, and it's called People We Meet on Vacation. It's about Poppy and Alex, and pretty much they were like the best of friends, and one of them is like really outgoing and kind of like wacky, and then the other one is more like reserved, likes to like read at home, that kind of vibe. And then something happens where they're torn apart, and pretty much they don't talk for years, and then 2 years later someone was asking Poppy, like, when was the last time you were happy? And she was like, oh, it was when I was with Alex. So she convinces Alex to take a vacation, and the rest is history. This book is by Tamara Ireland Stone, who's also a best-selling author, and the book's called Little Do We Know, and it's about next door neighbors and ex-best friends, Hannah and Emery, and they haven't spoken in forever because they had like a huge fight. And then pretty much like they cross paths again unexpectedly, and it says Luke's doubled over in his car outside of her house. In the aftermath of the accident, all three of them, where's the third person? I don't know. Oh, she has a boyfriend named Luke. Okay, interesting. I think, yeah, Emery has a boyfriend named Luke, and then yeah, Hannah and Emery were the ones who were like frustrating each other. It says in alternating chapters, a skeptic and a believer piece together the story of their complex relationship with help from the boy caught somewhere in the middle. So I wonder if this is a book about like one person like hooked up with someone and then someone else like hooked up with the same person. I don't know, but looks like an interesting thing to read, and I've never heard anyone talk about this book, so I just had to pick it up. Okay, this book I've heard will literally like make you cry so hard, so I'm excited to read it. I do think it has a different cover now, but it still stands as a book that a lot of people say you have to read. And on the back it literally says this book is a must read. It's beautiful, it's heart-wrenching, and it says that quote is by Colleen Hoover, a New York Times bestselling author. So yeah, I feel like I need to read this. I think I picked this up literally at a like random bookstore, and I was just like, I want to read it. And I think like it's interesting that like tons of people have talked about it and how good it is. But it says that Kate's life has been anything but typical. She's endured hardship and tragedy, but throughout it all, she's remained happy and optimistic. There's a reason her best friend Gus calls her Brightside. Kate is strong-willed, funny, smart, and musically gifted. She's also never believed in love, so when Kate leaves San Diego to attend college in the small town of Grant, Minnesota, the last thing she expects is to fall in love with Keller Banks. I'm gonna go through these 4 books because I still have like almost 10 books left to go through. But this one is Becoming Superwoman. It says it's a simple 12-step plan to go from burnout to balance, and it's by Nicole Lapin, and she's a New York Times best-selling author. And then this book is a book I actually got in college, like literally years ago, and it's about Andre Brink is the writer, I think, and it's called, I don't know how to even say that, Philida by Andre Brink, and it's set in 1832 in South Africa, and it's the year before slavery is abolished and the slaves emancipated, and Philida is the mother of 4 children, and it talks about their experience living in South Africa during that time. And then this is called Sell Like Crazy. It says how to get as many clients, customers, and sales as you possibly can handle. I actually think this is Brady's book. I don't even think it's mine. Or maybe actually, I think someone might have bought this for me like a long time ago. And then this is So Good They Can't Ignore You, Why Skills Trump Passion in the Quest for Work You Love. And this is by Cal Newport. This one is by Sabri Subi. And yeah, let's get into the rest of these books. I have heard this whole series is so good, so I actually am gonna buy the other 2 books. This is the 3rd book, but they don't like go in order or anything. This is by Kennedy Ryan, by the author who I read before I let go this year, and her book literally was so good, rated 5 out of 5. First 5 out of 5 of the year, and it says, I traded to a losing squad, cheated on, betrayed, and exposed. And it says Keenan Ross Actually I just skipped to the bottom. It says, my perfect life blew up in my face and I'm still picking up the pieces. The last thing I need is her. A wildflower, a storm, a woman I can't resist. Lotus Dupree is a kick to my gut and a wrench in my plans from the moment our eyes meet. I promised myself I wouldn't trust a woman again, but I've never wanted anyone the way I want Lo. She's not the plan I made, but she's the risk I have to take. A warrior, a baller, the one they call Gladiator, Keenan Ross, charge into my life, smelling all good, looking even better, and snatching my breath from the moment we met. The last thing I need is him. I'm working on me, facing my pain and conquering my demons. I've seen what trusting a man gets you. I don't have time for this, but he just keeps coming for me, keeps knocking down my defenses and stealing my excuses one by one. He never gives up, and now I'm not sure I want him to. This is about a competitive figure skater named Anastasia, and she has worked her entire life for a shot at Team USA. And then this is also about Nathan Hawkins, and he's the captain of the Maple Hills Titans. And it says, when a misunderstanding results in the two teams sharing a rink and Anastasia's partner gets hurt in the aftermath, Nate finds himself swapping his stick for tights and one scary coach for an even scarier one. This is called Atomic Habits by James Clear, and it says it's an easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones. My husband, he read this book and he said it was really good. It had a lot of like good information if you're trying to build habits in the new year. So this is a fantasy book, and I don't really dive into fantasy, and I think I accidentally picked this book up, to be honest, but it is it has a very long like backstory, but pretty much it just says, when the future of the Orleans and its people is at stake, Camilla must decide, save herself and her sisters in the way of the bells, or resuscitate the princess, risk her own life, and change the ways of her world forever. That pretty much sums it all up. But it says, Camilla is a belle. In the opulent world of Orleans, bells are revered, for they control beauty, and beauty is a commodity coveted above all else. So yeah, interesting, different, unique. These are two more memoirs, and this is called Thrive. It says, the third metric to redefining success and creating a life of well-being, wisdom, and wonder by Ariana Huffington. My sister got this book for me and has said that it's so good. So I'm really excited to read this one. And then this is a New York Times bestseller called More Than Enough by Elaine Wealthworth. And it says, the winner of the NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Literary Work, Biography, and Autobiography. And it says, the revolutionary editor who infused social consciousness into the pages of Teen Vogue explores what it means to come into your own on your own terms. This book hasn't even come out yet, but I got it from the author and I'm so excited. It's by India Hill Brown. It's called Rhythm and Muse. It actually comes out in May, so I get to actually read it before it's released, which I'm so excited about. I feel so thankful. It says, Darren Armstrong lives in his head. There he can pine for his crush, total dream Delia Dawson in peace, away from the unsolicited opinions of his talkative family and showboat friends. And when Delia announces a theme song contest for her popular podcast, Dilly D and the Place to Be, Darren's friends, convinced he'll never make a move, submit one of his secret projects for consideration. After the anonymous romantic verse catches Dilly's ear, she sets out to uncover the mystery singer behind the track. And now Darren must decide, is he ready to step out of the shadows and take the lead of his own life? I cannot wait to read this. Like, literally so excited. It says Cinderella. This is pretty much like a Cinderella-esque type rom-com, like, you know, Belle of the Ball. The song is submitted, she has to find out who it is, and I'm sure other people are gonna be like, oh, I did it. Like, I can't wait to read this. I'm so excited. This book, I was just reading the back of it because I've heard so many people talk about how good it is. It's called Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter, and it's about Liz, and it says that Liz has always known that Wes was not boyfriend material. You would think that her next door neighbor would be a prime candidate for her romantic comedy fantasies, but Wes has only proven himself to be a pain in the butt ever since they were little. So pretty much they're just like friends, and I feel like this is a friends to lovers because she has a crush on this guy named Michael, and so she asks Wes to like help her figure out like how to get him to notice her, and she is gonna go to all lengths to get him to notice her. And it says, but as Liz and Wes scheme to get Liz her magical prom moment, she's shocked to discover that she actually likes being around Wes, and as they continue to grow closer, she must re-examine everything she thought she knew about love. This is another book by Sarah Pekinen. It's called The Best of Us, and I also found this book randomly like at a bookstore, and I hadn't even read anything by Sarah Pekinen, and now I'm like so excited to read this. And it says pretty much that these like friends go on an all expense paid trip to a luxury villa in Jamaica, and then a powerful hurricane comes in and they all have to like reevaluate their lives. and everything that they know about their friendship and themselves. As this like hurricanes coming in, they all have this like stuff, tons of like terrible stuff going on in their lives. So this I think is gonna be a really good one. All right, you guys, that is 62 books that I just showed you guys. So many books, and I literally can't believe that we went through all of them. If you guys enjoyed this video, definitely check out my recent video, my last vlog, where I did like a little haul with a couple of books that I picked up from the bookstore. I share about books in literally every single vlog, but also I share about books in like dedicated videos about books, and I will link all those below if you guys want to watch those. I recently did a little challenge to wake up every single day for a week at 5 a.m. to read. So if you guys want to see like how that went for me, I'll link that below. And I also did like a little wrap up of best of 2022 of like all my favorite books from 2022. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye guys.